I'm going to show you two great tricks that work great together. And I was inspired from a previous video where I was showing you aliases in the bash profile. And I realized I had this nifty little loop here that really sets things up for showing you how to create a service, a constantly running Linux script using a loop, using just bash script, no Python or anything, and then how to get that running in the background in an almost uninterruptible fashion where you don't have to worry about closing the window. So without any further ado, well, a little further ado, if you look at this, the until says, until this condition is met, do this loop here. And the loop is a sleep one. It's just a 1 second busy loop. So if you ever need to write a busy loop for a computer, having it check something every 1 second doesn't even begin to tap your computer's capacity. So the important thing is to know that there are return values. And this is saying, until this returns true, do this other stuff down here, right? You got that? All right, that's important. So I want to do this now in drummers, which is my Linux container under Windows subsystem for Linux right now. And I am going to vim a file called looper.sh. So .sh just means it's a Unix shell script, or a bash script, if you will. They kind of get blended together these days because bash won. Sorry, corn shell people. All right, so there's different shells that are used, and a shell is just a way to bring more features to the command line. And bash is the one that Microsoft and most everybody chose over the years. And there are others that are technically a little bit fancier and better, but bash won. So we're writing a bash script. And whereas I had the until, I need while true. And while true, date's always going to return true. There's never not a date. While true, do, right? Sleep one. Very similar to the previous script. And then it's done at the end. All right, save and quit. And sh is the program that runs it. Bash would alternatively also run it. You need a ./. It's just the way these script executors are run, are written. You gotta give paths. It wouldn't just recognize it if I just said looper.sh without that ./. And here you have it, a script that just shows you the date every second, right? Pretty cool. But if you control C it would end. But more importantly, if you were to bring up the interface to the shell and you were to X out of that and go back in, it's gone. It's not running anymore, right? So this is the first trick, right? That's a pretty cool trick in writing something that works a lot like a server. What are servers other than things that are doing kind of like a busy loop, pooling? They might call it pooling, but it's all using the same principle. Things don't actually listen to things. There has to be a check. So this is the same basic way that web servers and schedulers and pretty much everything is written. Some people might take issue with that, but it gets the point across, okay? So control seeing it will break out of it too. It's very fragile. It's it's going away. Well, what if you were to want it to not go away? What if you were to want it to run invisible in the background? And this gets to another trick, the other great trick that works together with this. So clear screen, clear mind, right? So there's something called screen built in. It's just built in. It's, TMUX people will go, oh, use this other thing. Well, you don't have to go apt install. It's just screen is included. And it's from GNU, right? I've been talking about Richard Matthew Stallman, RMS, the person who I used a Simpson comic book voice for. So I think he wrote this. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's part of the GNU command set, and he wrote most of the GNU command set. So screen will allow you to, well, first you can see if you have any screens, -ls, right? Another one of those commands that uses ls as a parameter. you'll start to get familiar with that. It's list. So list the screens. There's no screens found, right? So let's make a screen. Let's call that screen. Well, if I use looper exactly, that might get confusing. So I'm going to do hyphen uppercase R. This is important because if it were lowercase r, it would just mean reattach to the screen. With an uppercase R, it means create the screen if it doesn't exist. And I'll call it loop it, looper. Okay, so I'm creating a screen called loop it. And you can see that new screen there, and then everything disappears. You can hardly tell you're in any special sort of screen. And if I have time at the end, if this video goes well, I'll throw in the bonus of showing you how to tell one screen from another. And let's see. You can do that same thing. sh dot slash looper dot sh. All right, so it's running. Now I'm going to do the magic trick. Bring up the interface for the, oops, hit the wrong key. Bring up the interface for the tabs, and most importantly, that close gadget up there. Ready? Just like last time. Close. Oh, it's gone. You know, these things are fragile. They go away. Hey, but what if we go back in and we do that same screen-ls? Oh, there's something called loop it still there. I wonder if I can reattach to it with screen hyphen. I can use lowercase r because I know it is there and it will reattach. Loop it. Hey, there it is running. Almost as if it were, oh, I don't know, a server or a service running in the background. And so we're going to get to this really powerful stuff called systemd that auto starts with your system and reruns it if it exits out, and has all these lovely, extra features to it. And, this is taking a step towards it, so that you understand that things that have a server window, that if you ever ran Jupyter Notebook through the Anaconda install, and you had that black window you couldn't close, and if you closed it, the server stopped running. Well, this is like one of those, except you can close it. See this function 11, close it. It's no worries. It's still there. And look, this is like Windows with 7 virtual desktops, right? Like, you can go looking for it. Where's that window? It seems like it's gone. Well, if you're using Windows subsystem for Linux, and I'm using a Linux container, this isn't even directly under Windows subsystem for Linux. It's under it, but it's one nested level down in a Linux container. I could even exit out, and I can do screen-ls here. Well, there's no permission denied, right? So permission syntax and, another reason to not use WSL directly, but instead to use Linux containers running under WSL. You should never really work in WSL. Ugh. Linux containers under WSL, yeah. So drummers will bring us back in. Screen-ls, and there's loop it. Screen-reattach. So I can just use L. Like, this is amazing. If there's nothing that's a closer match, in fact, I'll Control A, D, because you can detach from it. There's these Control A plus another letter combination. And, it's kind of like learning Vim. There's no way to know it. You just have to be initiated into it. So if you Google on GNU screen, you can learn the Control A plus other key combination things that let you do things like detach from it. So that's what I just did. And let's see. I did that in order to, let's see, screen-ls, it's still running there. Yeah, just to show you. Exit, exit. So if it were a server, and it was making services available to Windows side here, like coming up through a web browser, through perhaps location localhost 8080, it could actually serve websites off of such windows as that one running invisibly in the background. And, for so many Windows users, this stuff is a mystery, right? If you're a Jupyter user who's ditched Anaconda, as you should. You don't have to install Anaconda. There's mounting licensing issues that's, you know, burdening Anaconda. And now that pip lets you pip install pretty much anything it's been pre-compiled for your machine architecture, the reasons for the Anaconda install are just so much less. So a lot of people these days now are getting the Jupyter desktop, right? See, I Googled that in preparation for the video. And if you go into this guy, Mehmet Bektas, I hope I got your name right. Very influential guy, big Netflix employee, but also the leader, one of the leaders of the Project Jupyter. And you can follow this link. And just released 7 days ago, is a new version of Desktop Jupyter. And if you were to install this, you would have Jupyter running full screen as an Electron.js application. Wonderful, but there's two components. There's the user interface component, which is a lot like a Electron.js or node-driven interface. And then there's a server component, which is installed separately. And every time you upgrade, you have to delete both components and reinstall. In fact, if we go to the upgrade or the instructions here, it would tell you how to do that. But still, this is great. I'm so glad they're doing that. I'm happy about it. I'm going to heart it. But one should know how to run things in that invisible in the background server sort of way, which is best accomplished with GNU Screen. And how hard is it to do screen-ls, right? And then to do screen-reattach. Oh yeah, I was going to show you can use the numbers, right? I was going to just do 8. For lack of any better match, it's going to, pick the closest match. So there it is, just running, happily along, unaware that you're closing out on it. Technically, these are terminal sessions. There's a terminal server, and it's serving sessions, and you're in a command line interface session. You're in a terminal session. And it's impervious to things such as closing out. It's not impervious to everything, though. There's ways to mess it up. So I ought to show you, if you were to Control-C out of the script and you were to exit, you're out of that screen. It does tell you screen is terminating, and if you were to screen ls again, no screens found. But it's very easy to lose track of what's what and what's there, what's where. Are you in a GNU screen, or are you in the parent terminal session that called it? Well, it's very difficult to know, but there's ways to know. So if we ls here, you'll see again my home cloud drive, a subject of the previous video, and I can cd into my home cloud drive, and I can ls there, and you'll see a bunch of directories where I keep stuff. A very important one is home. I cd into home, and then I can ls. They're almost all invisible files, so I have to la, and I have something called screen.rc there. All right, so if I copy screen.rc, it's a dot in front of it, it's one of those invisible files, screen.rc, and I copy it to my home directory. All right, you'd think that'd be enough, right? For Vim with its vimrc, that's enough, but no, the screen program requires one extra step, and I have prepared for this in my video notes, so I'll bring you into here where I talk about it. And all it really is one more line where you export a environment variable from your bash rc. So I can just type, no, I can't type just profile. That was from up one level higher. So I can type vim ~/.bash profile. And it's just those two lines, right? Shift O, paste from my operating system buffer, escape, :w, quit. We got to exit. We got to exit it. No, I don't have to exit again. I just type drummers. And clear screen, clear mind. Screen, -R to create it, because I can't reattach to something that's not there. loop it, I don't know, again, just to give it a different screen name this time. And now after that new screen disappears, I should hit function F11 to get rid of all that decoration from Windows. You can see that what gets left behind is this stuff to show you, which screen index you're in, what kind of shell it is, what date and time it is, so you're in a GNU screen. If I were to exit out of it, that decoration is gone. I go back in, it's back. I exit out, it's gone. Now, I'm not creating screens over and over. You can tell by me doing screen-ls. Every time I exit, they're gone. That's one of those nuances. You can also tell that the return value is false because of the way my command prompt, my bash prompt, turns the $ red if the last thing exits with anything other than a true return value. So, is the utility of this not, percolating the ideas in your head? Would this not be a wonderful way to run, say, I don't know, Jupyter server instead of invisibly Windows side and having to have backslashes and it not being ready for automation on Linux server side and all these issues that you get with the Windows version of Jupyter? Or better than also the Anaconda install, where you have that black window that stays open and you have to minimize it and you can't hide it. And if you close it, you have to restart it. So this is just so much better. It'd be nice to put it in a location like screen, reattach, Jupyter. Now let's pretend for a moment that looper is Jupyter. sh./looper and control A, D, while still holding the control down. So you hold the control key down, you tap A, and while still holding the control key down, you tap D. Oh my God, this is such an initiation thing. But you're initiated now. Screen-ls. Jupyter is running. Well, I mean, looper is running. But if it were the Jupyter server, there is absolutely no harm of exiting from here because you're not in the screen. You're not in the, screen being served. So an exit here is just fine. An exit here is just fine. And you can go back in and prove it to yourself. So if it were a service, you could access it through a web browser, but it's not. It's just showing the date over and over. Screen, reattach, L. Oh, yeah, right, J. Change the letter. You don't even have to give it the full name. There it is, running uninterrupted. Two great tricks that work great together. Trick number 1. How to write long-running things. This is a long-running bash script, but you can do it in Python or anything else. And trick number 2, how to keep those long-running server and service-like things running in the background in a invisible yet still always accessible to you, a known API. You learn the GNU Screen API, and all that is invisible and server-like comes within your world. So 2 great tricks that work great together. Thanks. Don't forget to subscribe and all that happy stuff. Later, Gators.